television and our local news programme. Well, they've moved out. They've gone to new studios at Shepherd's Bush, and that building's been purchased by a property developer. Apparently, it's going to be turned into a hotel. But if you go home tonight and you put on the ITV London News, you will see the river in the background, all pre-recorded. As I say, they haven't been over there for 4 or 5 years now. But coming up on the left, the large white ship, the Wellington, the floating livery hall for the Honourable Company of Past Master Mariners. Now, to be a Master Mariner, you have to have served over 25 years at sea. The late Prince Philip was the lifetime president of that club, now been taken over by his son, Prince Charles. Now, it's difficult to see because the tide's fairly high, but as we go past, look above the entry in one of the world's smallest capital cities, spanning just 1 square mile, the City of London. But also to the left, see the red telephone box over there? Years ago, there was hundreds of them in London. In fact, probably more like thousands. But that's the only one today that remains in the City of London. Soon to be turned into a 2-bedroom luxury apartment with riverside views. But as we head through the city, you may notice there's very little advertising on the banks of the River Thames. It's because we have very strict advertising laws, as the Thames is a royal highway. But look to the right, you'll see how an architect very cleverly got around the laws by incorporating the company's name into the building. Look at the red brick building, look at the tower up on the top of the windows. Oxo. I'm sure you've all heard of Oxo, the people who make the famous gravy stock cube. Now, the building no longer belongs to the Oxo company, but it's a Grade 2 listed building. Therefore, it can never ever legally be removed. Comprises of many different things. The bottom's a few shops, the middle is luxury apartments, the top is the famous. To the left hand side, the red brick Gothic style building. Looks a bit like a church, is Zion College and Library. Houses over 300,000 very rare and expensive books, including Queen Victoria's own personal Bible and diary. The building next door with a sloped roof, the spire in the middle, is the old City of London School for Boys. Many famous people educated over there, people like Lord Asquith and Lloyd George, 2 of our former Prime Ministers. The building now belongs to JP Morgan, the American bank. The semicircular building on the end is Unilever House, London offices for Lever Brothers, one of the largest manufacturers in Europe today. They make over 800 different products. In front of us, we have the Blackfriars Bridge. Now look to the battlements of the bridge. You'll see something that look like church pulpits. Well, these were put here at the express wish of Queen Victoria to commemorate the old Blackfriars Monastery, which once stood to the left-hand side. The marble on the columns comes from the original monastery. But look to the tops of the columns, you can see carvings of birds. On the upper side, these are freshwater birds which you find here on the River Thames. On the lower side, there's saltwater birds which you find out at sea. They actually say it's at this part of the river where the salty seawater meets the fresh river water and then turns it brackish. Now the second bridge is the Blackfriars Railway Bridge. But as we pass through, in the middle is all that remains from the first ever railway bridge to span the River Thames. The old St Paul's Railway Bridge carried the first steam trains across the river for the Chatham-Dover. Many years ago, it couldn't take the weight of the modern day trains. You can never remove the old pillars though. Pull these out, you'll undermine the foundations of the modern day bridge. It would become unsafe. To the right hand side, the building with a tall chimney, the old Bankside Power Station. Today, the Tate Modern Art Gallery. You're interested in modern art? Go over there. See things like a pile of old bricks, half a cow in a jar, or a bit of screwed up newspaper. A fantastic day out. If you want to see a real work of art, look to the left hand side, dominating the skyline, the dome and golden cross on Sir Christopher Wren's masterpiece, St Paul's Cathedral. It took Wren 35 years to complete. It stands 365 feet tall. It is the second largest unsupported cathedral dome in Europe, the second to that of St Peter's in the Vatican City in Rome. The red brick building in front of St Paul's is the new City of London School. A young man called Daniel Radcliffe went to school there before he became Harry Potter. Now as we pass now through Norman Foster's Millennium Footbridge, we've got to make a very brief stop on the right at Bankside Pier. We've got a couple of people to drop off. Now if anyone does leave us at this site, folks, you won't be able to return back today. This is purely just to drop a couple of people off. So if you are leaving us, if you could make your way down the stairs and to the exit, because we're literally going to be straight in and straight out, folks. We're here for no time at all. But before we get there, on the right, the white painted building with the red front door is number 49 Cardinals Wharf at Bankside. It was once the home of Sir Christopher Wren for the 35 years it took to build St Paul's Cathedral. And also to the right, that white circular building with the thatched roof, that's the replica of William Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. Now it was built at the dream of an American film director called Sam Wanamaker. It's actually the first building in London to be built entirely out of wood since the Great Fire of London of 1666. Go over there today and see an old Shakespearean play being reenacted as it would have been done in Shakespeare's time. There's no microphones, there's no lighting, and it is an original open-air theatre. So being warned, folks, most people book their tickets in advance to ensure they get a space. Now if you do that and the day of your performance is chucking down with rain, you will get rather wet, as they don't allow umbrellas. They never allowed umbrellas back in Shakespeare's time. Now, the theatre itself is actually made up of different tiers. Now, if you go into the theatre in Elizabethan times, each tier had its own gate. And as you went through the gate, you paid your money. Back then there was no credit cards, it was all coins. And it went into a box. So each tier had its own box. Now when the performance started, they locked the gates and all them boxes with all the money used to go into one room in the back and they counted it. And that's where you get the saying from, the box office. People go to the box office to get their tickets, that's where it all originates from. Over to the left, it doesn't really look much, but that opening in the river wall, that's the Queen Hive Dock. That's actually the oldest registered dock on the banks of the River Thames, and it dates back to Elizabethan times. It was actually over there where many of the people boarded the boats to evacuate the city during the Great Fire of London of 1666. Charles II was on the throne at the time, and after the as people boarded the boats to join this, evacuate the city during the Great Fire of London of 1666. But look up on the skyline and along there to the left, look at the city skyline, you'll see how it's continually changing. See all these tall tower blocks going up? It's funny really, since COVID everyone's been saying the city's dead, there's no one there. But since then, since we reopened, 3 more tower blocks are on the way up. A few of them got funny names, the one with a slope side, that one's called the Cheese Grater. The one with the pointed top, that one's the Scalpel. And the one further along which gets wider at the top, that one's called the Walkie Talkie. People still ask us about the old London Gherkin. Well, you can't see that now, that's been that's all well out of the way because of the new buildings. You can't even see it anymore. But all these buildings, they're what they call multifunctional buildings. Now, when I say multifunctional, it means they comprise of many different things. And I'll give you an example. As we come away from the pier, in front of us is the Southwark Bridge. But up over the Southwark Bridge and to the right, dominating the skyline, you're going to see the Shard. Now, the Shard is the tallest tower block in Western Europe. It comprises of many different things, a luxury 5-star hotel, private apartments, a few different restaurants, and the top is a viewing gallery. In fact, it's one of the most expensive viewing galleries in the world. To go up there is over £30, but the building stands 1,016 feet tall. In front of us we have the Southwark Bridge, opened in 1921 and originally built to relieve the strain from the old London Bridge. But look up over the bridge and to the right. There's a flight of stairs coming to the river. This is Southwark Causeway, also known as Wren Stairs. It was actually on them stairs where Sir Christopher Wren boarded a small rowing boat every morning before being rowed across the river to supervise the building of St Paul's Cathedral. Just a short walk from where he was living, in Bankside. But as we pass through the Southwark Bridge, in front of us we have another one. It's the Cannon Street Railway Bridge. It services Cannon Street Station, which is up to the left-hand side, between the 2 Victorian towers. Up until the Second World War, between the towers was a beautiful glass stone roof. The outbreak of the war, they took the roof down, they stored it in a warehouse in the Kent countryside for safekeeping. During the war years, Cannon Street Station remained completely untouched. But during one of the first bombing raids, one of the first places to take a direct hit was the warehouse, losing the roof forever. But all these years later, I think they're agreeing saying what a lovely job they've done of blending the modern architecture in with the Victorian towers. Before we go through the bridge, to the right, a very old and historical pub, the Anchor Bankside. 2015, it celebrated its 400th birthday. Over the years, it's been frequented by many famous people, including William Shakespeare, as the original Globe Theatre stood somewhere behind the pub in a place called Park Street. It is one of the nicer riverside pubs, but as you can see for yourself, it does get ever so busy. Now through the bridge and coming up on the right, we have a small sailing ship in wet dock. It is the replica of Francis Drake's old ship, the Golden Hind. Francis Drake was the first Englishman to navigate the world. As I say, it's a replica ship and it was built down in Devon about 35 years ago to commemorate Drake's voyage. Now moored up as a museum, you pay a small fee and go on there. There's all the history of Sir Francis Drake. In front of us, we have the New London Bridge. This one was opened by Her Majesty the Queen in 1973. The first ever London Bridge dates back to the Roman times of AD 43. Before we go through the bridge though, look to your right. Looking between the gap of the buildings, you're going to see the lovely Southwark Cathedral. Now it's in Southwark Cathedral where a man called John Harvard was baptised, the son of a local tradesman. Now he left England and he went to America, where he founded the Harvard Library, which in turn became a part of the Harvard University in Massachusetts, USA. So parts of the building date back as far as the 12th century. But also in the graveyard is a man called Edmund Shakespeare, younger brother to William Shakespeare. Up until quite recently, I didn't know that William Shakespeare had a younger brother, but he did. He's dead and he's back there. But through the bridge, look to the left-hand side between the two buildings. You're going to see a tall stone column with a golden top. It's Sir Christopher Wren's monument to the Great Fire of London of 1666. It is built to represent a candle. They do say it was a candle which started the fire in the baker's shop in Pudding Lane. If you lay that on its end in an easterly direction, it would touch the point of where the baker's shop once stood. And also to the left, the lovely yellow brick building is the old Billingsgate Fish Market. Now a fish market stood in that site for nearly 900 years, until the late 80s, when the tradition was sadly broken and it moved downstream to larger premises in the Docklands area. The building today is a private function hall. The building next door behind the trees is the Waterguard House, the headquarters of Her Majesty's Customs and Excise. That is where they train those lovely smiling people who rip your bags apart when you get to the airport. In front of us on the right we have London's very own warship, the HMS Belfast. Now she was the largest of the light cruisers ever built for the British Royal Navy. Weighs 11,500 tonne. She saw active service during World War II and she last fired her guns in anger at the Korean campaign. She was decommissioned from the Navy in the 1970s, brought here by the Imperial War Museum. She's now permanently moored up 7 days a week as a museum ship to the public. A fantastic place to take children actually. There's 7 decks to explore from the engine room to the navigational bridge, and you'll lose them over there for quite a few hours. In front of us folks we have the Tower Bridge. Now obviously you want to go and take your photos, and please by all means do so. But after you've taken your photos, please remain seated folks. Please don't all stand on the top deck. But in front of us, as I say, the Tower Bridge. It opened in 1894. A twin suspension bascule bridge. And when I say a bascule bridge, I mean the lower section of the centre arch can actually raise in two halves like giant drawbridges, to allow larger shipping, like the Belfast, in and out the upper pool of London. But Tower Bridge was actually built in the Gothic style to blend in with its surroundings. On the left-hand side, we have the world famous Tower of London. Now, work first commenced on the tower under the orders of William the Conqueror in 1078. Being used as many things in his time: a royal palace, a zoo, a mint, an observatory. Most famously though, a prison and a place of execution. If you look to the river bank as we go past the tower, there's a bricked up archway. Above it, entry to the Traitor's Gate. If you was found guilty of your crimes at the Palace of Westminster, you would have been rowed down the river, but then up the once open archway up onto Tower Hill, where you've then been executed. That is said to have been London's first ever one-way street. Well folks, very shortly we're going to pass down through Tower Bridge. We're then going to call out our next major stop, which will be Tower Bridge St Catherine's. Now, we're going to be a couple of minutes till we get there folks. There's a boat alongside. But when we do get there, there's some very important information regarding your tickets. So please listen very carefully folks. When we get alongside Tower Bridge St Catherine's, anyone with the Tower St Catherine's circular cruise ticket, Tower Bridge key, single or return, you must leave the boat at this point. Your next returning boat will be here in a few minutes to pick you up and take you back to Westminster. If you don't have a valid Greenwich ticket or a river pass, I say you must leave this boat. If you stay on at the next stop, you will be stranded because we're very busy today and you wouldn't even be able to purchase a ticket to return if you wished. So as I say, for the people with the Tower Bridge ticket, once we reach the pier, please make your way to the exit. If you have the Greenwich ticket or the river pass, just stay on board this boat. But for the people leaving us, while you're sitting there, please take this time to have a good look around you and ensure you have all your personal belongings. Please don't ruin your day by leaving anything behind. For the people leaving us, I hope you've enjoyed your trip downstream on board the Sarpedon. And I do hope you've enjoyed the few points and places of interest. As I pointed out before I started, and I'm sure you've realised by now, we're not professional guides on these boats. But unfortunately, none of the Thames pleasure boats actually employ professional guides. All they do, when you buy your tickets, you get a small leaflet. In the leaflet there's a map, and that's your guide. Or you listen to it on your phone, which is a bit out of date and not very good. So we try and have these little talks with you. Now if there is anyone on board who's listened to the commentary, enjoyed it, and you would like to show any appreciation for our efforts, you can do so as you leave the boat. By the exit will be the old champagne bucket, and this is for any appreciation that you might like to show. We feel this is the fairest way. Now do stress, anything you throw into the bucket is voluntary on your behalf, as the commentary's been given online. For the people staying on, once we leave here folks and continue to Greenwich, I will continue with the commentary. But so we're going to do a few minutes. If you're staying on, you want to go get yourself a drink from the bar, now's an ideal opportunity while we're making this stop. As I say, once we leave here folks, I'll continue with the commentary downstream. If you're staying on, I'll be talking to you shortly. If you're getting off, I hope you have a lovely afternoon. But one thing I'd like to thank each and every one of you for, and that's your very kind attention during the commentary. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey,